Hello, this is problem 1A for the tutoring videos. So problem 1 is to determine if this integral exists and or if it exists and what is the value of it. So on the interval from 0 to 1, we know that x is going to be less than 1, meaning that this whole integral is going to be less than this. So we can say that this integral is a bound for that. So if this exists, then this has to exist. And we know this exists because we can do a u substitution where we set u equal to 1 minus x and du equal to negative 1 and substitute that in. So here we have negative 1 from 1 to 0 of 1 over root u. Now if you notice here, the limits are different, the limits of integration, because when you substitute in for u, we plug in the value of 0 here for x, and then we get u equals 1. So then we start at 1 there. And then when we plug in the value of 1, u equals 0. So then we go to 0. And we have negative 1 there because du is negative 1. So if we were to so in order to make this integral stay equal to this one, we have to multiply it by negative 1. And one of the rules of integration is that if you just reverse the limits of integration, it becomes the opposite. So to make this simple, we can just say integral from 0 to 1 of du over root u. Now if we integrate this, it just becomes 2 root u over 1 to 0, which is 2. So we know that not only does this integral exist, but the value of it is going to be less than 2. Alright, so now let's go to the next part. Integrating this integral itself is actually going to be harder, but we're still going to use a u substitution with the same u. So this is, we just plug in u again. Notice that we get 1 minus u is equal to x, and you can solve that, and it works out. And then, like before, swap the limits. And then, you notice here, 1 minus u over root u. We can separate that out into two different integrals to make it easier to solve. So this is the same integral from before, and then this is something new. But this this second integral here just evaluates to root u. So this is much easier to solve than this. So we just integrate these, easy peasy. Integrate root u, you get 2/3 u to the 3/2. If you remember the power rule for integration, you'll know that the derivative of this is just root u. And when we plug in our values here, we can ignore the zeros because we know that these are going to end up being 0 anyways, so we can just use the values for 1, 2 minus 2/3 equals 4/3. And this answer makes sense because not only is it positive, but it is also, it's less than 2. So, as far as we know, this answer makes sense, and this is probably right.